Hey, this is Justin with the Money Maven Project. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I want to talk tonight about one of the, well, it was almost the biggest mistake I ever made in real estate investing. Luckily, I didn't make that mistake. Basically, I'm going to compare one train of thought as far as how to invest in real estate, and then a new one that I learned that I think is going to be way better and probably save me a lot of heartache. So, a lot of people think that really all you got to do is go out, you find a townhome or a single family residence, you buy it, you put renters in it, and you cash flow, right? And it works, right? So, for example, if I was to buy a townhome or a home for $150,000, so I don't have any notes here, so forgive me if I run some math, but $150,000, I'm going to need to put down as an investment property at least 20%. So 20% of that, I'm going to need to put $30,000 into that deal. Okay, so I'm going to have a mortgage on that property for $120,000. Okay, so $120,000 mortgage, you're probably going to have a monthly payment of $600. Let's throw in some. Let's make it 600. Let's make it 650. Okay, $650. Okay, or 700. If it's the townhome, then you probably have an HOA fee on top of that, and so it's going to cut into your cash flow. But to keep it simple, let's just say it's mortgage is $700. You've got some other expenses. You're going to be about $800 all in each month. And if it's like my townhome that I'm renting now, it's going to rent for about $1,000. Okay, so rent's $1,000. So I'm cash flowing, obviously there might be some other expenses in here. We're not really going to that level of analysis, but let's just say you're cash flowing $200 on that property. Cool, right? So you've got a property, you put some money into it, so you're sitting on a little bit of equity, right? Whatever you put into it. You're going to cash flow a couple $100 a month. So if you can put a bunch of those together, you're going to be able to build a real estate business and have a bunch of cash flow each month, right? You have 10 of those, great. You got $2,000 in cash flow each month. Now, this is the strategy I was using or looking at last summer when I started looking at a property. Once we got into our new home, I started looking around for another property, wanted to get into a second rental property. Well, as I started to think about this, I'm like, all right, so really, I can go out and find a property. I need to come up with $30,000, okay? So if I saved up $30,000, I'd be able to make that down payment. In this scenario, there's not much rehab or anything, so $30,000 down, great. I get a property that's got $200 cash flow. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, if I do that, I tie up that cash. That $30,000 is tied up, and it's going to take forever for me to really get much equity in the deal, right? It is gaining equity each year, each month as my tenants pay down the loan, right? My equity will increase. Plus the property is probably increasing in value, hopefully. So I am going to gain some equity there, but man, that might take 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years before I'm sitting on a bunch of equity that I can maybe then sell and cash out, right? The idea is to obtain financial freedom, right? Have enough money that we can be free and live comfortably. So I'm like, well, I don't really, let's just say I have $30,000 and I tie that up, I now can no longer do anything else with that $30,000 as long as it's in that property. So I started looking around for other ways to invest where I'm not tying up $30,000. I get the equity in the property faster, and it's not just about a couple hundred measly dollars of cash flow. Not that that's bad, but that's not enough to motivate me to tie up 30 grand for several years, if not a decade. So I started researching a little bit, came across a website called Bigger Pockets, and there's actually a book, I think it's called The Book on Real Estate Investing by Brandon Turner. He talks about several different methods. The one that really got me excited was called the Burr Method. So the Burr Method. So this stands for buy, rehab, refinance, rent, and repeat. So this is a little bit different strategy where taking that same property. So let's take that same property, $150,000. Okay, but you're gonna need to find this property where it's worth $150,000 after you do some rehab. So we've got to find properties that are that need work, that are distressed or in a situation where the seller is motivated to sell at a discount. Okay, if you cannot go out there and buy a property at market value and expect to use this method. It won't work. You've got to find a discounted system, a discounted property. So we're gonna call this the ARV, after rehab value. So if this is the ARV of a property, we can buy that property for 70% of the ARV. So 150,000 times 0.7 is 105,000 minus the rehab costs. So let's just say in this deal, there's $15,000 of rehab. Okay, new paint, new carpet, a few other things, maybe a little room for unforeseen things. $15,000. So really, I should only buy this property if I can get it for $90,000. Now you might think that's crazy, but there are tons and tons of people out there that have a whole network or a whole business based on flipping homes, right? Home flippers this is their rule of thumb, 70% of the ARV minus the rehab cost. That's what they're looking for to buy. So this happens all the time. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not going to be able to find a property like this. Are you going to find it on the MLS? Probably not. It's not going to be listed. It's going to be off market. You've got to find it a distressed situation and somebody that's ready to sell property. So I'll talk a lot more about how to find those properties in other videos, but for this case, we're going to assume we can find this property. We're going to make an offer for $90,000. So if I'm gonna make an offer for $90,000, I've still got to put a down payment on that. So I'm gonna go get a loan for 90 grand. I gotta put 20% down, so that's $18,000 down. Okay, my down payment. And so the loan that I've got on this property is $72,000. Now, $72,000 is probably, probably about $450 mortgage payment. We'll call it $500 is my mortgage on that property. Now, so I buy this property and I spend some time. I put $15,000 of rehab in it. When I'm done with that, I'm going to go back to the bank and I'm going to refinance it. Okay, that's the buy, rehab it. Well, buy, rehab, refinance, rent, and repeat. Right. So we're going to rehab it, then we're going to go refinance it. Now, I'm going to go to the bank and say, all right, I've got this property. It's worth $150,000. So and usually the bank will loan up to 70% of the value of the after rehab value. So 150,000 times that 70%, we already did that, it's 105. So they're going to make a loan for $105,000. And so I can pay off this loan, right? Whatever. I get that money back, and I'm going to get my down payment back, and I'm getting my rehab investment back, right? Because I'm in this deal, 18,000 plus 15,000, $33,000, and I had to pay off. I had to square out a loan of 72,000, which puts me right at 105,000. Now, normally I would probably plan for a little bit of sludge here or slush, just because that's a pretty tight number to be coming out right at 105. But the point is after I go and refinance this, The biggest key for me on this is that I got my $18,000 back, and I've got my $15,000 in rehab back. No longer is my cash tied up in this deal while it builds equity. Okay, so I've got a property that I've forced appreciation into, right? Basically, I've forced some equity. I've got a property that I have a loan on for $105,000. You know, that mortgage is going to be somewhere between $500 and $600. Okay, it's still going to rent for $1,000. Right? Is that what we said on the first one? So let's just say it's cash flowing, you know, whatever, $200 to $300, maybe $400. I don't know if you got an HOA fee or whatever. Regardless, I've got some cash flow. But the point is now I've got $45,000 of instant equity. I've been holding this property for maybe 6 months at this point. I'm sitting on $45,000 in equity. So if I went and sold this property right now, I could cash out 45 grand. For me, that's not the plan. I'm going to stack up a bunch of these and then sell them and roll them into a bigger complex. But I've got equity, so if the market tanks, I've got $45,000 in equity that will keep me safe. If it goes off 20%, I'm still safe. I'm not underwater yet on that property, and it's still cash flowing. So yeah, I've got equity, and I've got my $33,000. I'm going to circle that in blue because that's the biggest key for me. I've got $33,000 that I go and I buy the next property with. Same scenario. I'm going to go look for one that I can, with an ARV of $150,000, I can get it for 70% minus the rehab cost, and I do it again and again and again. That, I think, is what the power is, especially for somebody that's getting into real estate and is not sitting on a ton of cash to invest in a bunch of different properties. I'm able to use the Burr Method to get this money back out each time and go do it again. But I'm not pulling all the equity out. Now, people will do this and they'll suck all the equity out of their properties. That's a great way to go bankrupt, because now you have no room. If the market turns down slightly, you don't have equity to keep you safe, and you're underwater on all your properties. So I leave equity in the deal, but I still get my investment back out, and now I can go do it again and again. And that, I think, is the biggest realization that I've had recently is that I can do multiple properties, multiple in the same year, as long as I can just keep pulling that money back out and doing the next property. So hopefully that helps you out. If a light bulb comes on, if this is helpful, please like, share, follow, whatever. Let me know that by following the project. Show me some likes. If it really blows your mind, which it did in my case, use that little emoji with the top of the head blowing off. Let me know how you really feel about it. If it's good and you got something from it, tag a friend, share it with somebody so they can also have this powerful method to buy real estate. Thank you.